Well, Antonio Roncolato joins me now, one of the last survivors to escape Grenfell Tower on the night of the fire, who lived on the 10th floor for 27 years. Antonio, very good evening to you. Thank you for coming on. And I'm even more grateful to you because every time we discuss this, it must bring back memories of that horrendous night. But where do you stand on this debate as to whether the building should be demolished?
Good evening to you and to your listener. Basically, we all know that the tower will have to come down. But it is the matter of how it is being brought to this argument. The consultation that has not been done properly, and obviously I wasn't there last night in the meeting, but hearing and so many people that say that they were not consulted, this is not good, this is not acceptable. So, and for Angela Rayner to go there and say, well, I have consulted so many families and my decision is this, this and this. Sounded a little bit too cold and too tough, if you know what I mean, and therefore many people took it at heart. And she doesn't still maybe not realize that it is an open wound, and people are still grieving, especially people that have lost loved ones. So therefore, a little bit more caring and understanding would be more appropriate.
In terms of, I mean, look, I'm sure you are in touch with a lot of people whose family members either were killed in that fire or lost their homes. Do most people take the view that it should stay standing?
I believe that all in all, the vast majority of the people would like the tower to come down. I believe and I want also the tower to come down. My own opinion is that, you see, there is a memorial commission in place with a memorial that will be built. So for me, if Angela Rayner would have said yesterday, okay, we're going to do the following, there is a memorial commission in place. A memorial will be built instead of the tower. This is going to take so much time, and we will coordinate with them that by the time the tower is down, so automatically the work for the memorial will start. So that if it's going to take the whole process another 2 years, because the tower is going to take so long to take down, right, then it would make a difference, because then, okay, something is coming down, but automatically straight away something will be built, and there will be no ground zero where it's going to be left in there for months and years. And also, talking about 2 years' time, hopefully some justice will be also in process. Because, as you know, the police is investigating. They keep their lips tight. But by the end of next year, they said to us that they will hope to bring people to the CPS and therefore to court. So all these things leading one to another, and we know that it's going to take time, but this is the way she should have put it to us. This is my personal opinion.
Well, and it sounds entirely sensible to me. I was just thinking while you were talking, of course, the 10th anniversary will be in June 2027, which, I mean, sounds a long time away, but it's actually only, what 2 and a bit. Yeah, two and a bit years. I mean, I don't know how long it takes to demolish a building like that, but if it were to be demolished before that, I mean, it would be great if a very nice, tasteful memorial could be unveiled, maybe on the 10th anniversary.
That would be really great, but we know for sure that the demolition of the tower or the deconstruction of the tower will take about 2 years. Then take and give, sometimes it takes a bit longer because you have to take into consideration many things, the material with which the tower is being built, the toxicity of the things in there as well, and the weather condition, everything has to be done very careful. So therefore, that would be really great. But, but even if we have to wait a year longer, it doesn't matter. Providing there is a plan in progress that will lead one thing to another. You know what I mean? So the tower comes down slowly. The memorial is being worked at, and there is a plan. And the moment the tower is down, the work for the memorial will start, and then we will go towards 2026 when Crown Prosecution Court will take people to court, and hopefully, some sort of justice will start to be put into place, if you know what I mean.
Do you have confidence that's going to happen?
Well, sometimes many people ask me this question, and my heart say, no, there is no confidence. They're going to brush everything under the carpet. The strong powers will have the upper hand all the time. But I have to think as well with my head, and I have to have trust. I have to have faith that all what has happened and the hard work from the inquiry, will come to some good things. And therefore, I really, really hope, and I really sincerely hope that justice will be brought and that there will be finally closure for all of us.
And the inquiry that took place. The conclusions from that, did you take any, well, I was going to say comfort, but that's the wrong word. Were you content that the process had been a full one, that all the facts had been examined and that the inquiry came to the right conclusions? Yes. Obviously, that maybe something more could have been, analyzed and so on. So, but all in all, I think that the judge, did a very, very good team. I followed a very good job. I followed the inquiry very closely, and looking at some people, how they were trying to make excuses when they were asked questions by the QC and so on. And trying lying through their teeth and being trained not to say something, to do this or not to say that, and to say, oh, I don't remember, I forgot, so many years have gone by. So at the very end of it, the judge did point his fingers to those responsible ones. The death could have been all avoidable if greed and profit would not have been put before human rights, human lives, and so. So as far as the inquiry is concerned, yes, I'm happy. Do you still live in the area?
Yes, I live in Kensington. It's just 1 mile up the road towards the town hall, basically. And I'm very lucky, and I always say very lucky and fortunate that where I am and that my son is still with me. He's got his own family now, and because many, and sorry that I repeat this, but many young children, teenagers, and have lost their lives, and young children that I knew, that I used to meet in the common area on a daily basis, and it's really hurting thinking that they're no longer with us. It's very, very meaningful. I mean, for me, it's very, very important that justice will be served, and that as soon as possible, obviously.
And when you see the tower at the moment, I mean, it must bring that awful night back to you. I mean, is it something that you relive very often?
Yes, I do, because over the years, you see, either for the police investigation, the inquiry, phase 1, phase 2, the media, I'm part of Grenfell United committee as well. So we have meetings regularly. I've got my table here, my desk full of 90% related to Grenfell and things, related to Grenfell. And then, whenever I go there, and so, I always think, okay, it is all white and beautiful looking now, but behind there it is a tomb, and it is burnt, and it smells, and it brings me back that night. But also it brings me back the fact that my son was outside looking at the tower burning with his father inside, and not able to do anything or to help me, and he thought I was going to not to make it, So it was. I cannot not think about that. My son Christopher was outside, and can imagine, and like him, many other members of other families, were outside, and many of them didn't make it. And but again, as I said, I'm lucky and fortunate that I made it, and here I am now.
Take me back to that moment when you found each other.
Well, it was very emotional because I had my son Christopher was there, another member of the family, cousins, and some friends, and I felt that their faces were like consumed, or I don't know how to put it, but they had no tears left to cry. And I think I was the freshest one amongst them, because I was totally in charge, full of confidence that night that I would make it out. And there was no way that I could not have made it that night, because I was too focused and too concentrated and too paying too much attention of not making mistakes. and been so on top of the situation, and obviously at the very end with the help of my son, because he's the one that finally broke the police cordon, went through to the firefighters and told them, listen, my father's still upstairs and he's been told to stay there, and nobody's going to help him. And then finally around 6 o'clock they came to help me out, to take me down. So.
Well, Antonio, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I think you've spoken so much sense during this conversation. I thank you for coming on the programme tonight. That's Antonio Roncolato there, one of the last survivors to escape Grenfell Tower on the night of the fire.
Now, clearly, I think everybody would agree we must have a proper, dignified, serious memorial at the Grenfell site. It should never, ever be exploited for commercial gain. But as to what ought to happen to the shell of the building, I struggle. I'm joined by three absolutely crucial people, and the first of them is Karim Mulsihi, the Vice Chair of Grenfell United, who lived on the 16th floor of Grenfell Tower and escaped through the smoke by the skin of his teeth. Welcome, sir. Can I ask you, first of all, about your experience as a survivor of Grenfell and the way the government has treated you?
Hi, Andrew. Just want to correct you there. I didn't live on the 16th floor of the tower. My uncle, Hisham Rahman, lived on the top floor of the tower. He was a disabled man and sadly lost his life on the night of the fire.
Well, I beg your pardon. I'm very sorry about that. I had the wrong information. So the crucial question is what should happen to the tower now? And I can see both sides of this, that it is a kind of tomb. It's something very special. And yet, for a lot of people, it's too grim a reminder. What's your view?
I mean, look, I think the conversation that we should be having really is not necessarily about what should happen to the tower. We know that the tower can't stay the way it is indefinitely. We know the tower has to come down at some point. We know these difficult discussions need to happen. The most important thing here is the bereaved families who lost their family in the most horrific and public way in that tower need to be at the heart of these conversations, which unfortunately, Andrew, just have not happened. Yesterday in the meeting with Angela Rayner, it was a really, really terrible meeting. There was a vast majority of the bereaved families there, around 60%, and all of which disagreed with her decision, all of which had asked how many families have been engaged in her decision-making process, and a lot of the families haven't been approached or been given the appropriate space to have that conversation. Now, look, it's a very difficult and sensitive thing, and like you said, you know, for a lot of us, this is the last resting place of our family. This is a gravestone. This is a gravesite, and everyone's going to have mixed views. People are going to want it up. Some people are going to want it down. Some people are going to want part of it to stay and used as a memorial place. And that's absolutely fine. But what isn't okay is for Angela Rayner and her team and the government to make a decision about what should happen to the tower without consulting and putting the bereaved families at heart of this conversation. And that hasn't happened.
So, Karim, in a sense, you're saying it's less about the decision and it's more about respect.
Absolutely. It's more about respect. It's more about the process. You know, November, the Deputy Prime Minister announced that a decision was going to be made in February. And, you know, we wrote and said, you need to make sure that you speak to at least 60% of the bereaved families. You need to make sure that you go about this in the right way. You give people the time and the appropriate space to have their voices heard, as different they may be. You know, we know that, like I mentioned earlier, the tower cannot stay the way it is. But she didn't come yesterday and said that there was a structural issue with the tower. We know parts of the tower is deteriorating, and as I mentioned, you know, it can't stay the way it is forever. But had she have come and said that, look, for the community's safety, for people's safety, I have no choice but to bring that tower down, then we would have understood. But that wasn't the case. So you should have plenty of time to have a meaningful consultation, a meaningful conversation with the families. And clearly this decision wasn't based on our views, because a lot of the families there yesterday, pretty much all of the family members that were there yesterday, did not agree with her decision nor the process of how this decision came about.
Karim, let's just agree for the sake of argument there should be a respectful and serious conversation and consultation now between the government and the families. Taking that into account, do you think one day when you pass that area where your uncle died, there should be a monument of the kind? I know it was very different, but at the Twin Towers in New York, there is now a huge and very moving monument which allows people to go and pay their respects and to grieve for those who died. The same kind of thing perhaps should happen at Grenfell?
Well, absolutely, and this is a discussion that's also been happening. The Memorial Commission that's been set up is leading these conversations and listening to people in terms of what their different ideas and views are. I mean, there definitely should be something that not only reminds the world and the community of what happened, but also a place where people can go and pay respects to their loved ones. And absolutely, but it's just there are the views that some people believe that tower should stay up until at least some form of justice or accountability is delivered. The tower as it stands is a symbol of the shame that this government and the previous government have. When you walk past, as you mentioned, on the motorways or coming from the west, you see that tower, and if you're not as involved as we are, it begs the question: what's going on with Grenfell? What's happening with Grenfell? We've learned that Grenfell wasn't a freak accident; it was avoidable. Our loved ones' deaths were all avoidable, and people should be held to account. And we haven't had that, and it just feels like we're having a very backwards conversation about bringing the tower down, and a lot of people feel out of sight, out of mind. The tower's going to take time to bring down. I think from the letter that we received this morning, it's going to take about 2 years. So come the 10-year anniversary, there won't be a Grenfell Tower to remember. So it's just the process and how this government has gone about it has just been absolutely appalling, unforgivable. We were in the meeting yesterday and getting media requests about commenting on the decision before we'd left the meeting. We had family members that couldn't attend yesterday. We're waiting for us to give them a response into the decision. We're finding out through the media that the Deputy Prime Minister had decided not only to bring the tower down, but bring it all the way down.
Is the implication there, I wonder, that it was actually leaked by government officials while that meeting was going on? I don't know. But the implication of what you're saying there, I think, Karim, is that if people pass the Grenfell Tower today and there is a shiver of horror, guilt and disgust, that's a good thing. People need to think about what happened there and not forget.
Well, yeah, absolutely. People need to be reminded of what happened at Grenfell, because Grenfell was no freak accident, and it also uncovered a lot of national scandals that we have here in the country. How many buildings still remain with the flammable cladding? How many families and people live in buildings just as Grenfell? Building regulations that are allowing corporations to come in and manipulate and put up flammable materials. All of these questions, all of these issues have not been resolved that Grenfell uncovered. Yeah. And again, like I mentioned before, we don't know why this decision has been made or what the decision is based on. And Angela Rayner could not tell us yesterday in a meeting, and the numerous times was asked, how many families have you engaged with? How many people have you spoken? And she would not and could not give us that answer.
We all need to get to the bottom of this. Karim Mousili, thank you very much indeed. Grenfell United there, Vice Chair. Thank you very much indeed for talking to LBC tonight.